Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really diving deep, right into something critical. It sits at this fascinating intersection of quantum physics, advanced math, and, well, the security of pretty much everything digital. We're talking about the code breaker, Shor's algorithm, and the quantum threat to cryptography. And our mission, like always, is to pull out the crucial insights, maybe give you some surprising facts, and basically offer a shortcut so you feel really informed on this without getting totally lost in the weeds. It's complex stuff, no doubt, but honestly, it's essential knowledge now. So we've set this up as a Q&A. We'll tackle questions like, what makes Shor's algorithm such a big deal? What are these one-way math problems our current security leans on? How do quantum computers actually break this stuff? And maybe most importantly, what are we actually doing about it? Building these quantum-resistant defenses. So yeah, let's peel back those layers. All right, let's get into it. We've talked about quantum speedups before in the show, but Shor's algorithm from 1994, right? What made that one such a bombshell, especially compared to other quantum stuff?
Yeah, 1994. It's fascinating because it wasn't just faster. It fundamentally changed the game of what's even possible, computationally speaking. See, a lot of quantum algorithms give you what's called a polynomial speedup, which is good, don't get me wrong, significant even. But Shor's offered an exponential speedup for a really crucial problem. It basically took something considered intractable, like practically impossible for any normal computer, even supercomputers, and turned it into solvable for a quantum computer. It found this Achilles heel in our digital armor that nobody really saw coming back then.
Wow. So, like you said, not just a faster car, but completely different kind of vehicle, one that can go places we thought were totally off limits. Okay, so to get the impact, we need to know what it actually breaks. What's this one-way problem you mentioned? The one that underpins so much of our public key cryptography.
Right. This is the core idea, the brilliance, and now, well, the vulnerability. It's called the integer factorization problem. Think of it like this. It's super easy, computationally trivial almost, to take two really big prime numbers, let's call them P and Q, and just multiply them. You get this huge number, n, simple multiplication. But, and this is the one-way part, if you only have n, that huge number, trying to work backward and find the original P and Q that made it, that's incredibly, incredibly hard for a classical computer. Like astronomically hard once the numbers get big enough. This asymmetry, easy one-way, practically impossible. The other, that's the foundation stone for a lot of the public key crypto we use every day.
So it's like making a very specific, complex paint color by mixing two secret ingredients. Easy to mix, but impossible for someone else to figure out the exact original ingredients just by looking at the final color. How does RSA encryption, which is everywhere, right? Securing websites, emails. How does it use this difficulty, this factoring hardness, to keep our stuff safe?
Exactly like that paint analogy. RSA security is completely staked on that difficulty of factoring n. When you set up RSA, you pick two massive prime numbers. P and Q, these are your secret sauce. You guard them carefully. You multiply them to get n, and this n becomes part of your public key. Anyone can see n. But your private key, the one you use to decrypt messages sent to you, its calculation depends directly on knowing those original P and Q. So the moment someone can factor your public n back into P and Q, boom, they can easily calculate your private key. Game over for your encrypted messages. And for the RSA keys we typically use, like 2048-bit keys, a classical computer would need, literally billions of years. That's the kind of computational wall we thought we had.
Billions of years until Shor came along.
Okay, but it sounds like Shor's algorithm isn't just throwing more computing power at it, like a brute force attack. What was the really clever idea? How did he reframe factoring into something a quantum computer could tackle efficiently? That's the genius of it. Shor didn't just try to factor in faster, he completely sidestepped the direct attack. He had this incredible insight. He realized that the problem of factoring n could be mathematically transformed into a different kind of problem, finding the period of a function. Specifically, a function like fx is x mod n. Here, a is just some random number you pick, and mod n means you just care about the remainder when x is divided by n. So, for example, if n is 15 and you pick a 7, you look at 71 mod 15, that's 7. Then 72 mod 15 is 49 mod 15, which is 4. Then 73 mod 15, that's 13. Then 74 mod 15 is 1. And then 75 mod 15, 7 again. See, it repeats. 7, 4, 13, 1.74, 13, 1. The length of that repeating cycle 4 in this case is called the period. Let's call it r. Shor's truly profound insight was showing that if you could find this period r efficiently, then some relatively simple classical math could quickly give you the factors of n. And that problem, finding the period r, is something quantum computers are exponentially good at.
Wow, okay. So the trick was turning find the factors into find the repeating pattern. That's really clever.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the steps then? Conceptually, I mean, you mentioned it's a hybrid, right? Classical and quantum parts working together.
Absolutely. It's like a well-choreographed dance between classical and quantum computation. Maybe think of it in three main stages. Stage one is purely classical. You start with your big number n you want to factor. You pick a random number a smaller than n. Then you do a quick classical check using something like the Euclidean algorithm to see if a and n happen to share any factors. If they do, fantastic, you're done, you found a factor. If not, which is likely, you then set up that special function fx equal x mod n. And your goal now becomes find the period.
Okay, so classical setup first.
Yeah.
Then comes the quantum magic.
Exactly. Stage two is where the quantum computer takes center stage. This is the core, the heavy lifting. The quantum computer's entire job in this stage is to find that period R. And it does this super efficiently using quantum tricks. We're talking superposition, entanglement, and the real star of the show, the quantum Fourier transform, or QFT. Once a quantum computer performs its calculation, it basically tells us R, or something very close to it.
Then we switch back.
Right. Stage three brings us back to the classical world. You take the period R that the quantum computer found, you plug it into a couple of relatively simple classical calculations involving A, R, and N. Specifically, you calculate the greatest common divisor, or GCD, of AR21. And magically, almost, those GCD calculations spit out the original prime factors, P and Q. So it's this elegant handover, classical prep, quantum period finding, classical finishing calculation.
Okay, let's focus on that quantum core, stage two, finding the period. How does superposition play into that? You said it uses quantum principles. Does that mean it tries all possibilities at once? Kind of. That quantum parallelism idea?
That's exactly it. That's where the quantum power really comes from. You start with two sets of quantum bits, or qubits, two registers. The first register is prepared in a massive superposition. Remember superposition. A qubit can be 0, 1, or effectively both at the same time until you measure it. So this first register represents all possible input values for x in our function, fx mod n, all simultaneously. It's like having exponentially many classical computers running in parallel, each trying a different x. That's the quantum parallelism. Then you apply the function. The quantum computer calculates the output, fx, for all those superimposed x values at the same time, storing the results in the second register. And doing this creates entanglement between the two registers. The input x values in the first register get intrinsically linked to their corresponding output, fx values, in the second. They're connected now.
Okay, superposition and entanglement set the stage. But you mentioned the quantum Fourier transform, the QFT, as the real engine. How does that relate to the regular Fourier transform we use in things like audio processing or analyzing signals? What's the quantum twist?
Right, the QFT is absolutely central. Think about the classical Fourier transform first. It's a mathematical tool, a really powerful one, that lets us take a complicated signal like music or an electrical waveform and decompose it. It breaks it down into its fundamental building blocks, simple sine waves at different frequencies. It's brilliant at finding hidden periodicities, repeating patterns within data. The quantum Fourier transform is its quantum cousin. But instead of operating on classical signals, it operates directly on the quantum state itself, specifically on the probability amplitudes of the quantum state. It essentially transforms the state from its computational basis, like zeros and ones, into its frequency basis. And the crucial part, a quantum computer can perform the QFT on an exponentially large state incredibly fast in polynomial time, whereas doing the equivalent classically would take exponential time. That's a massive speedup.
So the QFT finds patterns in the quantum state itself. How does that work in Shor's algorithm then? How does it use that to actually pinpoint the period? It sounds like some kind of quantum pattern matching.
That's a great way to put it. It is like quantum pattern matching, powered by interference. Remember, after we applied the function fx equal x mod n, the first register, holding the x values, is in this complicated superposition entangled with the output register. Because fx is periodic with period r, the amplitudes in that first register now have a hidden periodic structure related to r. When you apply the QFT to this register, it acts like a massive, carefully orchestrated interference experiment. Think waves interfering, canceling out, or reinforcing each other. Due to the underlying periodic structure related to R, the QFT causes constructive interference only for specific output states whose frequencies are essentially multiples of 1. All the other possible output states, they experience destructive interference, their amplitudes get canceled out, driven down close to 0. So after the QFT, the quantum state is highly peaked around values related to 1R. When you finally measure the register, you're extremely likely to get one of these peak values.
Ah, I see. So the interference filters out the noise and amplifies the signal corresponding to the period.
Exactly. The measurement gives you a fraction related to R and then a little bit of classical math. Something called the continued fractions algorithm lets you deduce R itself with very high probability.
That's mind-bending, but incredibly powerful. Okay, so we know RSA is vulnerable. You mentioned earlier it's not just RSA, right? What other big cryptographic systems are in trouble because of Shor's? This sounds like it cuts pretty deep.
Oh, it cuts very deep. The vulnerability isn't confined to RSA at all. Shor's algorithm, or very similar quantum techniques, also break other major types of public key crypto systems. Anything based on the difficulty of the discrete logarithm problem is also vulnerable. This includes the Diffie-Hellman key exchange that's fundamental for setting up secure connections, like when your browser makes an HTTPS connection. And critically, it also includes elliptic curve cryptography, or ECC.
ECC, that's used everywhere now, isn't it? Like in phones and modern websites.
Absolutely everywhere. ECC became super popular because it offers security comparable to RSA, but with much, much smaller key sizes. That makes it way more efficient for devices with limited power or bandwidth, like smartphones, smart cards, IoT devices. Most of the secure messaging apps used in the modern security protocols on the web, like TLS 1.3, they rely heavily on ECC. So yeah, Shor's algorithm puts a huge chunk of our modern digital communication infrastructure at risk, not just RSA.
Okay, this is sobering. And it gets worse, right? You talked about the threat not just being about future quantum computers breaking future data. There's this harvest now, decrypt later idea. Can you explain that? Why is that so worrying today?
Yeah, this really shifts the urgency, doesn't it? Harvest now, decrypt later is exactly what it sounds like, and it's frankly quite insidious. It means adversaries think nation-states with significant resources, or maybe sophisticated cybercrime groups. They don't need a working quantum computer today to be a threat. What they can do today is intercept and record massive amounts of encrypted data that's flowing across the internet. Government communications, corporate secrets, financial data, your private emails, anything encrypted with current standards like RSA or ECC. Right now, that data is safe. It just looks like random noise to them because they can't break the encryption with classical computers, but they're storing it, hoarding terabytes, petabytes of this encrypted data patiently. They're making a bet that sometime in the future, maybe 5, 10, 15 years from now, they will have a powerful enough quantum computer capable of running Shor's algorithm. And when that day comes, they can pull out all this stored data they harvested years ago, run it through their quantum computer, and decrypt it. All of it.
Wow. So secrets from today, or even years ago, could be exposed years down the line.
Precisely. It makes data with long-term sensitivity incredibly vulnerable. Think national security secrets, intellectual property, personal health records. The data might be old, but the damage from its decryption could be immense and current. It makes the quantum threat immediate, even if large quantum computers are still some way off.
Okay, that's a really serious concern. So the cryptographic community isn't just sitting back, right? You mentioned post-quantum cryptography, PQC. What exactly is that? How is it different from what Shor breaks?
Exactly. The alarm bells went off quite a while ago, and there's a huge global effort underway called post-quantum cryptography, or PQC. The goal of PQC is to develop completely new cryptographic algorithms that can withstand attacks from both today's classical computers and tomorrow's quantum computers. Now, here's a key point that sometimes causes confusion. PQC algorithms are not quantum algorithms themselves. They are classical algorithms designed to run efficiently on the computers we have right now. But their security isn't based on problems like factoring or discrete logarithms, which we know quantum computers can solve. Instead, they're based on different types of mathematical problems that are believed to be extremely hard even for quantum computers. It's about finding new mathematical foundations for security that aren't vulnerable to Shor's insights.
Okay, so new classical algorithms based on problems that even quantum computers find hard. What kind of math problems are we talking about? If not factoring, then what?
It's actually a pretty diverse set of mathematical approaches being explored, which is good. We don't want all our eggs in one basket again. The main categories include, first, lattice-based cryptography. This relies on problems related to high-dimensional geometric structures called lattices. Finding certain points or distances in these complex lattices seems to be very hard, even for quantum algorithms. This area looks particularly promising, and several leading candidates come from here. Then there's code-based cryptography, which uses the mathematics of error-correcting codes, the same kind of codes used to detect and fix errors in data transmission or storage. Building secure crypto from them is tricky, but it's an old idea getting new life. Also, multivariate cryptography. This involves solving systems of equations with multiple variables and quadratic or higher powers, easy to create, hard to solve. And finally, hash-based signatures. These rely solely on the security properties of cryptographic hash functions, which are generally believed to be quantum resistant, at least for now. These are particularly mature for digital signatures. There's a big ongoing standardization process, mainly run by NIST, the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology. They've been running a competition for years, rigorously testing algorithms from these categories to pick the best ones to become the new global standards.
It really sounds like a massive, necessary undertaking. So, just to sum up the impact here, what's the monumental significance of Shor's algorithm? Its lasting legacy on cryptography and digital security?
Monumental is the right word. Shor's algorithm wasn't just another algorithm, it was a paradigm shift. It demonstrated, in a way nothing else had, that quantum computers weren't just theoretical curiosities. They could break the very foundations of our digital security. It showed that a problem deemed intractable by decades of classical computer science could become tractable by harnessing quantum phenomena like superposition and interference. It revealed this unexpected power of quantum mechanics to find hidden patterns. The implications, as we've discussed, are seismic. It effectively put an expiration date on RSA, ECC, Diffie-Hellman, and potentially others. It forced a global reevaluation of cryptographic security and triggered this urgent worldwide race towards PQC. Its legacy is this ongoing transition, this fundamental rebuilding of our secure digital infrastructure to be resilient in the quantum era. It's a stark reminder that our understanding of computationally hard can change dramatically with new physics and new technology.
And governments are taking this seriously. You mentioned NIST leading standardization. How is Canada specifically gearing up for this transition? Are we being proactive?
Yes, Canada is definitely taking a proactive stance, which is crucial. The Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, or CCCS, has been quite forward-thinking here. They've published a formal roadmap, a clear plan outlining the steps needed to migrate all Government of Canada IT systems, which is a huge portfolio, over to post-quantum cryptography. They've set some pretty concrete deadlines, too. By April 2026, the goal is for all federal departments to have their initial migration plans ready. Then, high-priority systems, the really critical ones, need to be migrated by the end of 2031. And finally, all remaining federal IT systems need to make the switch by the end of 2035.
Wow, that's a pretty ambitious timeline for something this complex.
It is ambitious, and it highlights the perceived urgency. It's a massive undertaking, you know. It involves inventorying every system that uses cryptography, which is almost everything, planning the upgrades, testing the new PQC algorithms, training staff, updating procurement policies. It's a huge logistical and technical challenge, but it shows a clear commitment at the national level to address the quantum threat before it fully materializes.
So wrapping this up, it seems Shor's algorithm wasn't just some arcane bit of math. It really was the code breaker that showed us a fundamental crack in the foundations of our digital world. And this whole shift to post-quantum cryptography, it's not just a routine tech upgrade. It feels more like a necessary evolution, maybe even a revolution, to keep our digital society secure.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Shor's algorithm cracked cryptography, but what other impossibly hard problems might quantum computers solve in the future? Think about materials, science, drug discovery, complex optimization problems in finance or logistics. It really challenges us to keep reevaluating what we think is computationally possible as this technology develops. We need to stay adaptable.
That's a great point. Always more to explore. Well, thank you for taking us through that complex but crucial topic today, and thanks to all of you for joining us on this deep dive. If you found this valuable, please do subscribe to our channel, Tech, AI, and Beyond, for more explorations like this one. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.